Okay, now recording's in progress. So we're going to figure out here how to divide this properly. All right, just like laying down the foundations of a house, we're going to want to put every room in order before we start filling up those rooms with the electrical, the air conditioning, furniture, etc. So we're going to first lay down the foundation of the house, and then we're going to fill up each of the rooms. What do I mean by fill up is the H1, the P tags, the images, okay? So first we're going to create these blocks as we see on the right-hand side over here, and then we're going to fill them up, okay? So here's how we're going to do that. Let's first make a layout. So we know that this nav bar section here is going to be fine, irrelevant to the rest of the body. So this area here, the one I just highlighted in pink, this main section, we're going to call the main section or main content. Okay, doesn't matter what you call it. We just have to understand this is the main content. The area above this nav bar is like the parking lot to the building. We can build this separately from the building itself. The building itself that has all the complex rooms, that's what we need to approach with some caution. So this area here, we'll call the main section. And on the main section, we're going to create 2 columns. Now, this is key because we're going to have to create 2 columns in order to make this work. We're going to create a left column and a right column. Okay. And most of the time, you're going to have to divide things into columns. And then once you create these columns, you're going to have to create this card section inside the left column and this education section within the left column. And then once you finish the left column, then then go through the right-hand column, this column section. Okay. Once we have our page looking like colorful blocks like this, like it does on the right-hand side over here, then we know we're at a good start. Then we can start filling up the content inside of our blocks. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. We know we're going to create a main content that holds everything. Then 2 columns, a left-hand column and a right-hand column. Okay, so let's do that now. I'm going to pull up my text editor. I'm going to close this window here. I'm going to create my index.html. I'm going to link the CSS and create the CSS. And I always like to see my CSS and HTML at the same time. So CSS on the right, HTML on the left. Okay, so now we're here. Now let's just say hello world to get started. Open on live server. Okay, so we've got our hello world here. Great. Organize my windows nicely. Okay. So, all right, we need to create this nav bar. All right, so I'll create the nav bar. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to say div.nav. That creates the nav bar. And I'm going to create a comment here that says this is the nav bar section. Okay, I've labeled everything. I'm going to label everything as I go through here. because I want my eyes to easily find where I am whenever I get lost. Okay, now that I've created the nav bar section, I'm going to create the nav class here. I'm going to give it a background color of red, and I'm going to say height 100 pixels. And there it is. There's my nav bar. Once I've created this bar across the page, I know I'm good. I want to eliminate these white gaps in between. So I need to use the wildcard selector and eliminate all margins and all padding before I get started. So margin 0 pixels, padding 0 pixels. So that way it's clean. Okay, now that I've finished my nav bar section, I want to go ahead and get on to the main content here. So now I'm going to say, create a comment, main content. And I'm going to say div dot main content. And there's my main content block. Okay. I want to see my main content as everything here, both left and right column, all the squares in both columns. So let's make a giant block that would be this whole entire area. Okay, just so we're all clear, all this area here. Okay, so let's do that now. I'm going to create the main content. I've already created it. Now I just need to add some styling to it so I can see it. So I'm going to say dot main content. I'm going to give it a width of about 1,000 pixels and a height of, let's say, 900 pixels. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, well, before if we want to see what it looks like at all, we need to give it a background color. So that's what I'm going to do to everything. Background color, orange. Here's a big orange block. That's where everything is going to live. Now I want to center this block as it's centered in this display here. So I'm going to apply margin 0 auto. Now it's centered. Okay. I want to add that little bit of space between the main content and the upper nav bar. So now I'm going to say margin top 20 pixels. So now I have a bit of space between the main content here and the nav. All right. Okay. So now that I have my main content, I need to add the left and right columns to it. Okay. So now I'm going to first work on the left-hand column. I'm going to create this area here. Let me pick a better color so we can see a little better. Green. How about green? Green, it's going to be this whole left column. I'm going to create a left column within my main content. So let's do that now. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go within my main content. I am going to now create a comment saying left column. Left column. Okay, I've created my left column and I'm going to say div.left column. Now I have my left column. Now let's go ahead and add some dimensions and background color. Oh, and by the way, I should be adding comments to everything. I'll do that right after I create this left column. I'm going to say left column. And then I'm going to create this here and I'm going to say background color green. I'm going to give it a width of about 600 pixels. And height of 900 pixels. Okay. So now there's my left column. Okay, what is, Justin, how do I change the font color inside sign out button? I need to change it from black to white. Color. Color is for font color. Background color is defined as background color. Okay. So we have here our left column, and now we need to add a right-hand column. So let's create our right-hand column. But first I said I was going to add, oops. I'm going to add some comments to my CSS and say navbar main content left column. Okay. So now I've got my left column. I want to create my right column now. So where am I going to create my right column? Outside of my left column, beside it, they're going to be siblings. And within my main content. So whenever I click a div here, it's going to show me where it begins and where it ends. Okay, so I know I need to be in this area, but I don't want to interfere with my left column. So I have to do it outside of the left column as a sibling, as equals. They're twins. Okay, so I'm going to say div dot right column. And I'm going to add a comment here so I can easily differentiate right column. Okay, so now that I have my right column, let's add some styling to it. So I'm going to add my comment. Right column. And I'm going to say dot right column. And I'm going to say background color purple. And I'm going to give it a width of 400 pixels. And I'm going to say height of like 900 pixels. And where is it going to be? Right below it. That's because divs stack on top of each other. By default, they're going to stack on top of each other. We need to add a rule so that it can be side by side, because even though I've defined it within my main content here, the right column is going to stack on top of its neighbor. All right, here's a rule that I'm going to give you guys. So it's going to sound funny. A flexible parent can manage her children. A flexible parent, imagine a mother at a grocery store. Okay, children are running around, but if she realizes they're unruly, she becomes flexible, drops what she's doing, grabs them with both hands at once, and puts them in line. Okay, so adding flex to the parent will make the children in line. Okay, so physical. Okay, stay unmuted. That scared me. Yeah, it gets physical. If it doesn't get physical, it will when they're home. If they're that kind of parent. All right, so let's go ahead and I lost my train of thought there, Justin. Thank you.
You're trying to flex your main content for the two columns.
Yes.
My bad, Josh. I just couldn't resist.
Okay. It's okay. We have our flexible parent, so we're going to have everything in line now. Okay, so now we have our left column and our right column. All I'm doing is adding height, width, and I only applied flex once, okay? Only to the main content here. Now that I have my left and right columns, I'm gonna populate these columns with these divs here. So here we go. We're gonna create some, so we have our left column here. I'm gonna now create the profile card in the left column and the education section in the left column. Okay, so 2 div blocks in the left column now. I don't need to apply flex to them because they're going to stack on top of each other by default. Okay, so here we're gonna go into our left column now, and we're gonna create our profile card, right? Because that's what we see here. This is our profile card. So in the left column here, we're gonna say div profile card. And let's add some comments here. Profile card. And let's add the comment here. Profile card. Okay, now here below is where I'm going to add CSS.profile card. And I'm going to say background color pink. And I'm going to say width. Let's give it a width of about 600 pixels. That's about the width of the column. And height, let's say 500 pixels. Okay. Now I've got a big pink block there. And that's what I want. That's this whole section here. Okay. And I'm going to add below the profile card within the left column. So in this section, the left column, it's the neighbor of the profile card. Because remember, when we added the right column, it appeared right below. So that's what we want to do. I make another div appear right below this pink one. We're going to call it the education section. So div.education section. Okay, let's add our comment. Education section. Okay, now that I've got this education section, I'm going to create it in my CSS. Education section. Okay, now let's go ahead and add the CSS rule dot education section. Background color. Let's see, aqua is good. So now I'm going to say width 600 pixels. Height about, I'm going to say 300 pixels. And let's give it some, let's see what it looks like first. Okay, so I have this area all within the green column here, the left column. So I'm going to give it a margin top. 40 pixels. Okay, so now we have everything within the left column that we need. We have the education card and we have the profile, the profile card and the education section. Okay, now let's work on the right-hand column. And Justin, I will help you with that tool in a second here, but let's focus on just understanding how to make this column structure work. And everyone needs to focus on this so that they can pass here. Okay, so let's focus here on the lesson. We have our left column complete. Now we just need to do our right column. Okay. So we're going to work on the right column now. The right column, what is this section called? Connection requests. So in the right column here, now I know I'm in the right column because I click the div and it's going to show me the closing div. So I need to be in between this. I'm going to say connection requests. Okay, and below this, I'm going to say div dot connection requests. Now I'm going to style this div dot connection request. Let's add the comment. Requests. And I'm going to say background color yellow, height about 350 pixels, and width, let's say 400 pixels. There's our connection request div. That's this here. Okay, now we're going to do the your connection section. We're going to create this very last box. And then we're nearly done here. So connection requests. Now I'm still going to be inside the right column. So I know if I click this top div, it's going to highlight the bottom. If I click the connection requests, it's going to highlight the bottom div. So I'm going to be outside of that one, but within the right column. And I'm going to say your connection section. Okay. I'm going to say div dot your connections. Oh. Didn't do it. Hold on. Div dot your connections. There we go. Okay. Let's do the last comment here. Your connections. And now we're going to place the last section here. We're going to say dot your connections. And we're going to say background color blue. We're going to say the height 500 pixels, width 400 pixels. And let's see what this looks like. Okay, so we have our blue div there. We have this space in the column still, so we're going to add some margin top. 40 pixels. So now we have two columns side by side. And we also want to create some space in between the columns. So on the left column, I'm going to add some margin right. So on this left column, this green one that has a background color green, I'm going to add some margin right. So I'm going to look for it here, left column. I defined it here and it's green. I'm going to say margin right. Let's say 40 pixels as well. All right, so now we see that orange color, right? That's going to be the whole main section. And we have all of our divs that live in here. That's our foundation. Once we've created this on our web page, once we've mimicked the look of it by creating these blocks with different colors, then we can start filling it in. Okay. Only until we're able to make this will we start filling in all these sections here. Okay. Let's get a pulse check 1 through 10 on how we're understanding this blocked concept. how I made this. Okay, I've created columns and sections within the columns. And that way, I can arrange the divs however I'd like. And there can be a line now separating, going in between, that goes up and sideways. And it exists here, right? This is how we can make div blocks that don't really seem like they're in some weird alignment. We separate it by columns. Who's in whose column? Okay, most everything can be separated into columns. Even if, for example, this profile card was shorter than it is, let's say it was this big, it's still within the left-hand column. All I need to do is shorten it within that whole entire column that I'm calling left column, so that this whole section is still one, right? So figure out the column division of your web page, and then you can create within those columns divs that you'd like. That's how we can get this assorted view, where there's some on the right, some on the left, but they're not in perfect alignment. Okay, now everything else from here is easy. Once we get this foundation, we can easily arrange everything inside. Okay, so I can work on this with you guys a little bit. I want you guys to fill in the details when you're working on these profiles, but I also want you to know how little I had to use flex at all. I only used it once so far on line 17 on my CSS. I don't need to create selectors to apply flex on everything here. I only need to apply one class per div. And I've left comments on both sides of the pages. So as soon as I start filling in the details here, things are going to get messy, and it's gonna look like just jumbled code. Okay, but these comments here are going to keep my eyes focused where I need to go whenever I get lost. Okay, so let's work on the nav a little bit. I've already created a nav in one of the demos, but let's see how we can arrange this. Okay, so we have a profile, we have home, my profile, find connections, and then we have a sign out button on the right. Okay, and all this exists within the red section here. So now what I'm going to do is, now that I know I've created the layout, I'm going to start commenting out the colors as soon as I start working on it. And when I comment out the colors, I'm going to add an outline. Okay, I'm going to say 2 pixels, solid red. So everything that I do is going to be within this red outline now. All right, instead of outline, I'm going to say border. Now I'm in this red border here. Okay, everything I'm going to work on from now on, I'm going to erase the color background and add a little bit of a red border. So I'm going to first work on this nav bar, and then you guys should be able to handle it from here, because every concept of how to divide something, for example, in this section here, the same concept that I'm going to apply to this nav bar, you can apply to this area. You can apply to this here. You can apply to this here. It's the same concept that I'm going to apply to this nav bar to everything that has multiple items within a horizontal row. This, for example, doesn't need flex. It's just one item. This is just one item. This is just its own thing. This is also its own thing. No flex needed for education section. This is an image, so we are going to use that position rule for that. That's the only time this is its own thing. These have two. This has the image and the words, okay? But we can figure out how to do that just fine. This here is its own thing. It's just one block, we're going to create a break right here and make it indent there. This is another row. This is another row here that we're going to use. So let's first do this nav bar. And the concept that we're going to apply to this nav bar, we can then apply to every other thing that has multiple items. For example, this image, this name, and these buttons, okay? Once I finish this nav bar, we're going to be done with today, or at least this demo. Okay, so let's go ahead and create it. I'm going to go within the nav bar, and I'm going to create what I need, okay? So first we need H1, home, my profile, and find connections. So H1, okay, we're going to say profile. There it is. We are going to then create the home, my profile, and find connections. So it looks like it could be, they're actually going to be links, right? We want them to be links. So we're going to create a UL class and 3 LI classes. So LI times 3. And inside each LI, we're going to say they're going to be a tag. So a href, we're going to do nothing there. We're going to create a home. All right. And once you create one a tag, you don't need to go through the trouble of recreating. You can just stick it here in each LI, change the text, my profile. Find connections. Let's see what it looks like. That's what we need. That's all we need. Okay, now let's edit this. Oh, we need one more thing here, the button. So we'll add that to the very end here. We'll say button. And what is it saying here? Sign out. Sign out. Okay, so we have everything that we need to stretch out. And so because I'm working on my nav, I'm going to go in this nav bar section that I've sectioned off in my comments, nav. Okay, so I'm going to say, I'm going to say, first, let's work with the obvious. I need to arrange the A tags so that they have text decoration none. And color black. So now they're black. They have no text decoration. Oh, actually on my thing, they're white here. So background color, we're going to make it actually dark gray. So let's uncomment this. Dark gray. All right. Color white. All right. Now, so that's handled. Now I want to make everything here inside the nav flex, right? Because I want everything to be side by side next to each other. So I'm going to say nav display flex. Okay, now we're all side by side. But we also have to align the items. As soon as we do flex, it's going to stretch to the height of it. So we're going to say align items center. Now they're center aligned. And I need to take away these dots on the list items here. So I'm kind of jumping around, and that's okay. As long as I'm focused on what I need to do big picture. So LI, I'm going to say list style, none. That takes away the dots. Okay, and I need the list items now to be side by side. So I'm going to target the parent of all the list items and make it flex. The parent is going to make flexible children. UL display flex. Now they're side by side. Now I just need to separate it as we see here. Okay. So we are going to say there's lots of ways I can approach this. I can say, I'll just give a couple examples. Let's say justify content space between, and now it's arranged this way. Okay, this is in the middle because this is the second item. The first item is going to be all the way to the left. The second item is going to be all the way in the middle, and the third item is going to be all the way on the right. This is not exactly what we have here. So let's check out another option. What if we just say justify content center? Now everything's in the middle. Okay, that's fine. And I also notice my profiles, my H1 is still black. So I'm going to say H1 color white. All right, so now let's think about how we can do this. The UL, all the content in the UL is only going to be separated if I give it some width, right? Because let's go here in the UL and then let's apply one border, 1 pixel solid red. That's the whole area that everything has to stretch out. So if I say now for the UL width, 50 pixels. That's way too small. Let's make it 150. That's still way too small. Let's make it 350. Okay, now that's a good space it can stretch. So I'm gonna say justify content space space between. And now there's that separation that I need. So this is the foundation right here. Okay, we want that separation between all the list items. Now there's multiple ways I can approach this. I can apply justify content space. I can create another div here. I can create a div within a div that contains everything and let that be the width there. So this will be a div within the nav bar that contains everything there. I could make justify content space between, as we've seen, that stretches all the way, then add some margin left for the H1 here and some margin right on the button here. That's another way I can do this. But the foundations are there, right? If we look at our page, we have that space between our UL items. And so we can even, at this point, we can even just do this with margins. We don't even need to use so much the rule justify content at all. But let's do it for the sake of doing it. Okay. So I'm going to say justify content space evenly. Oh, actually, I'm still here on. So I want to do, instead of on the center, I'm going to say space evenly. And that pretty much does it there. That's gonna arrange it. Now, if I want to move these list items to the left, I target the UL and I say margin right. 300 pixels. That pushes it to the left. I can even push the H1 to the right by saying margin left 200 pixels. See how that pushed it in a little closer? Then I just find where I need from adjusting the pixels there. Maybe not 200 pixels, but 100. That's better. Okay. I want these UL to be more to the right. So let's say 400 pixels. And that's close enough. Now, if I want this button to be more to the left, then I just target the button. I say button. Stop highlighting everything. Come on. Button. Margin right. 300 pixels. That's too much. Okay, let's do a little bit less. We do 100 pixels. Okay, that's about right. Now, if I want to push this to the left even more, let's push it to the left from the H1. So I'm going to say 150 pixels here. There. Okay. Now the nav bar is done. All I need to do now is change the size of the button now, and I'm good. You guys, I think, have done all the card on the card, so I won't go over that. You do need to use the position and move this icon down from the blue down. That's the only time you use the position attribute. Everything else you just need flex and margin. Okay, and that's how you guys do it. Do we have any questions about how I approach this?
Can I add just one thing?
Sure.
Within the nav bar, I know you just did it for the example, but you'll probably want to class each of like your button
Yes.
and your H1, because you're going to have multiple H1s throughout.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
going to take the rule of your nav bar.
Yes, I'm glad you made that comment. Okay. So exactly what Mike said. As soon as we get the initial styling for the nav bar, then we're going to go back and change this by class. Okay. So then we say nav bar, we can do this by saying .nav H1. So you're still applying the H1 only within the nav. So now you say .nav UL, .nav LI, .nav A tag, .nav button. Everything is exactly the same. You see nothing changed, but now I'm just saying specific to this nav, the button in the nav, specific to this A tag, specific to within the nav, this LI section, but only in the nav here. Okay. You can add classes and do it this way, or you can do it the way I'm showing you here. But you need to make it specific, because you're going to want to use maybe other probably not an H1. You only want one H1 per page. But this section here, the Jane Doe, that's big enough to be an H1, or you can make that a big text, whatever you like. But if you use H1, all you have to do is within the profile card section, if you use an H1 here, you say profile card H1, and then you write whatever you like there. Okay. So do we have any questions about this? Okay, let's get a pulse check on how we're feeling about using flex here. If you guys don't feel like a 10, I need to know so that I can keep working with you guys until it's understood, okay? Don't say 10 just to fit in. I want to know so that we can work together. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad you guys attended. I hope this helped. Use this template for any other assignment that you have during Web Fun. Not this specific one, but the way that I arranged the main content, the nav bar, the columns, and the sections within the columns. Okay. And tomorrow we'll work on something like this. We'll do a workshop for JavaScript. Okay, so get these concepts down. I want to see everyone submit the profile page at least by the end of today, so that we have a fair shot of the test on Wednesday. So keep working, guys, and I appreciate your guys' attention. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow if I don't have you in a code review right now. I got to get to that now. So see
Thank
you
you.
guys.